Welcome, funky peoples and everyone joining in. Today we have a very special Ghetto Funk Live edition. My name is Ruben. I'm one of the co-founders of Ghetto Funk Collective, together with the other co-founder, Roche Apinsa, who's here as well. We have a couple of special guests here. One of them is Hiroko Boogie, all the way from Osaka, Japan, representing Ololoko. And we have, from France, Willow, representing Time Room Lockers, Team Rocket, and the Ghetto Funk Collective. Today is a rare privilege. We gather here not just to celebrate a career, but to listen to the voice of a pioneer, a woman who has changed the way we see music, and someone who helped shape the language of street dance. She bridged the world of film, music, and dance, whose vision still inspires generations today. A dancer, choreographer, director, icon, a singer who created an anthem that lives across generations, and an artist whose influence stretches from street dance to pop culture and who is an inspiration to all of us here today. Give it up for no one else other than Toni Basil.
Yay! Thank you. That's really a beautiful intro. Thank you so much. I think I admire the Ghetto Funk Collective so much because I see the spirit of the original Lockers in you. I see the individuality. I see charisma. And your videos are fresh and new. And they are exceptionally fun to watch. And so I'm grateful to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Toni.
So let's turn it to the first page. What was your first spark? The moment you realized dance and performance would define your life?
Well, I can recall dancing at 3 years old because my parents were in show business. They were in what you called vaudeville. I have footage of my mother's 2 older sisters and brother, they were all born in Australia, dancing in a silent film in 1919. And when I first saw, oh my God, I was on the computer and I realized because things come up. You know, you think they're far away, but the farther away you get, the more people are putting things up. And it's a British Pathé film. It's on my YouTube channel, Toni Basil's House. And I just stopped cold because I saw this still picture. And I thought it was a still picture. And then I realized, oh my God, it's a video. I am going to see them dance in 1919. And they better be good. They were so spectacular. They're wild as hell. You even see something that looks like that. You see partner dancing Charleston. My uncle does the splits and comes up. My aunt does the splits and comes up. He throws her over his shoulder. It's wild as hell. It is, I felt like, oh yeah, I was in show business before I was born.
Could you maybe explain what is vaudeville?
Vaudeville, okay. Vaudeville was the style of theatricality that people would go to see entertainment. Before there was movies, they would go into a theater and see these performers. Now, the performers could be a comic, a juggler, somebody who juggles, tap dancers, singers, and they would do little skits. It was also very popular in burlesque. Very popular. A lot of famous comics came out of burlesque. So that was kind of the beginning of that kind of theatricality. Once movies came in, then it was called stage shows. Stage shows was when the audience was coming in, they came in, they saw a live show, the juggler or the dancer, the comic, and then the singer was always the star. And then there was a movie. And then they got the audience out and brought the audience back in, a new audience that was waiting outside. And my dad was the orchestra leader at the Chicago Theater for stage shows from 1947 to 1957. And I stood on the side of that stage in the wings every weekend, watching my father and all the acts that passed through 10 years. We figured out that I probably saw over 1,000 shows every weekend.
Wow.
So, and my aunts, which then my mother and her younger brother had left Australia when they were old enough with their parents and joined the two older sisters and brother that were in the silent films. And they became an act called Billy Wells and the Four Fays. And they're also on my YouTube channel because they were on Ed Sullivan in 1964. They toured. They had an act from 1927 in America to 1964. That's a long.
Wow.
That's a long time. So
That's a long time.
That's why I'm dancing a long time. It's just what my family does. You know.
You were really born into it.
I was born into it. So I sometimes would see my whole family, my mother's side of the family, on the stage, my father directing the orchestra. And I just thought, everybody did. That's what everybody did. You know, I can't cook or clean but I sure know show business. And I would go to ballet class every day in Chicago. Took from wonderful ballet teachers. Edna McRae was extraordinarily famous. And I learned from the ballet. I learned from the stage, the side of the stage. And I also learned from when we moved to Las Vegas, the mob moved Louis Basilata to Vegas when stage shows closed down. When they stopped being popular. And nightclub performers, you know, show business changes. Now we have battles. We didn't have battles before. And I was head cheerleader at Las Vegas High. So then, you know, every decade of my life, I had acquired information, more and more information that really not just made me knowledgeable, but I loved it. I loved it so much, so much.
That's why you're
You
still
know?
here.
It was thrilling to me. The performers were spectacular, and I was able to be entertained and not really realizing how much information I was acquiring.
Yes.
You know? And that's the best way to get information. Just the best.
Yeah. Okay, let's turn back to the 1960s. You weren't just working in entertainment, you were shaping a whole new era. Can you take us back? What was the environment like in the 60s? And how did you find yourself at the center of so many groundbreaking projects?
Well, I think I was there at the right time. What was happening was go-go. The music was changing. Wasn't big bands anymore. It was guitars and, you know, rock and roll was happening. Go-go dancing was happening. People at the beginning of the 60s, just before that, were holding arms, dancing, partnering. Lindy hop.
Go-go dancing.
Lindy hop. Then they let go when the music changed. And dancers were free on the dance floor. That was a radical change, radical. And then what started to happen was there were songs for every dance. You heard, the big first song was The Twist. And the twist was not like it is now, where we put so many different steps together so quickly and change and up. And The twist was one continuous, repetitive move. Yes, you could do it very, very fancy, but women with tight skirts on and heels could just do the twist. Everybody thought that they could dance. The policeman on the street, the housewife. Everybody thought, oh, I can do this. And everybody started to dance. It was this huge, huge explosion. And so there was the twist. Then there was the pony. Then there was the mashed potatoes. That's the dance that James Brown gravitated towards. He took those mashed potato footwork and made it something else spectacular, as we all know. And then there was the skate, the jerk. Everything was repetitive. Look, the jerk. Oh, I can do the jerk. So, you know, they don't even have to move their feet. So the whole club, when the song The Jerk went on, the whole club would just jerk, you know? Yeah. And it was from the clubs. You could have movie stars at the Whiskey A Go-Go and young 21-year-old kids that danced their butts off. So you had the movie stars being very fancy and the kids going crazy. And the girls that wore this fringe called the go-go girls, they were fringe. They came down from the ceiling in these cubicles and they danced, but they were also the DJs. They put the music on that they wanted to dance to. And it was an explosion. And what that meant was that I knew all these dances because I was what, 17, 18. But I also was a heavily trained jazz dancer, ballet dancer. So all of a sudden in movies, they needed kids that could go-go dance, but were trained. And there were very few of us because the older people that were dancing on television weren't into club. They weren't into dance. They didn't know that. So we crossed over. I could say there was 15 to 20 of us that did every movie in the 60s because we could do it all. We did. Thank Lord, I started to assist a guy named David Winters, who was became a very famous choreographer. And he was one of the co-stars of the original West Side Story. Those people were the greatest dancers of that time. And I met him when I was cast in a remake of the play. And I was thrown into fire. Because if you are familiar with the original West Side Story, I was dancing with these people. And I thought, whoa, I better raise my game. And it was just incredible. Because you know, if you're dancing around people that are better than you, you raise yourself up. So I was so lucky. And what happened is that he and I started to assist. Well, he started to choreograph movies and I started to assist him.
I have a question. Can you tell us some names from the 60s dances that inspired you where you were working?
Okay, well, I did name the twist.
Not the dances, though, the dancers.
Oh, the dancers. Yes, well, okay. So well, no, well, we were them. We were them.
For sure.
We really were. And actually, people like Anita Mann and Pete Menefee, these people that were go-go dancers became producers, costume designers. You know, they went on to bigger things. Not dancing is a bigger thing, but they just, as they matured and weren't dancing anymore, they were producing, they were directing, they were choreographing.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's also so interesting? You're talking about like back in the days they were doing like dances and everybody was doing those dances. It's like when I started to understand hip hop, the culture, when they were saying in the song the hop, and everybody was doing the hop. So it's interesting to know that it's already for so many years that the dance is what the artists are saying, and you're all doing the dances.
Yes.
It's interesting that it never went away.
Well,
it's really the culture.
Also, we did get to see, because I did these shows that were changing the face of television, that were shows that had James Brown on them, Tom Jones on, and Billy Preston on, all these people who danced. The singers danced, and they were spectacular. So we were really learning from the singers, and quite, you know, we showed a film the other day, yesterday. The only footage of that authentic, great dancing is from those singers, because they were filmed on television. Whereas the kids in the club, when we were in the club, there was no cell phone. There was no way to film and record and bring in lights. So that's kind of lost. What went on in the clubs in the 60s, except for this little piece of footage I found of this great go-go dancer named Joey Cavallari from Chicago. I don't think there's footage. There's footage of the go-go girls. There is some footage, but it's very sparse. It's nothing like it is now. You can see, I can see everything you guys do within a day if you put it up. I see everything Hiroko Boogie does constantly. I see it. I see it. I know when Willow's doing a judge's demo. I know, I can see it. We are so informed of what each other is doing, you know, whereas before, there was no way. The way we did the dances, the way we did the twist, or the way we did the push and pull. On the West Coast, we did it one way. On the East Coast, it was entirely different, because we were just following the song. The song was telling us what to do.
Yes.
And so it was different. So unless someone came from New York and came to LA, we didn't know, oh, that's what you're doing. Oh, that's what your boogaloo looks like. Boogaloo, not Boogaloo Sam's Boogaloo, not Pete's Boogaloo, but a dance called the Boogaloo, which was so influential. It was totally different on the East Coast as on the West Coast, and James Brown's Boogaloo was different than everybody's, because we just knew the songs and the music, you know? So, yeah, we were, I mean, in LA, with the time period of the lockers, if we didn't go to New York, we didn't see breaking. It wasn't in our community. That was there. We did not see house in Los Angeles during house. San Francisco did. I went up to San Francisco to see house, because we did not have what we have now.
Yes. And it was just interpretation of the music, so
Yes.
it can be
And
interpreted
the lyric.
differently. And the lyrics,
And the lyric. And then the songs maybe would say, like in Shotgun, there's a song called Shotgun, Junior Walker and the All-Stars.
Yes.
Shotgun, and they say shotgun, there's a dance. The guys had a shotgun dance, the girls had a shotgun dance. And then in the song, they'd say, do the jerk, baby. Mm-hmm. So you do the jerk. If the song told you to change, you change.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So the song kind of dictated the choreography. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you can see the result of all this in the Tammy show, because what we choreographed in the Tammy show, which had from the Rolling Stones to James Brown to Marvin Gaye to Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, I mean, it was
huge.
Huge. The Supremes. Mm-hmm. I mean, we saw Diana Ross on camera for the first time, and we were sitting in the green room, and you saw this woman with these eyes. You saw charisma come through the lens. we were in the green room, literally seeing all this, because the green room is the place you sit before you go on stage, and you see what is going on camera. And wow, we saw James Brown. You know, it was absolutely jaw-dropping. Jaw-dropping. And the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, Brian Jones, Keith, you know, thought, how are they going to follow James Brown? No one can follow James. I'm telling you. Mick Jagger jumped up in the air and started doing this kind of strange white boy dance, God only knows. And once again, he looked like no one had ever seen before.
Yes.
And it was so startling. And I got to be the assistant choreographer on the show. The girls that are on the steps behind, we choreographed. But we had 4 go-go dancers out of the club. Joy and Stevie Ciro, Debbie and Essie. They were the most famous go-go street dancers, go-go dancers in clubs, untrained, that we also brought out to solo, because even though the jazz dancers, they would go to the clubs, nothing was like the original street dancers.
Of course.
You know, it's just different. We see trained dancers doing go-go, doing locking, and you can tell the training in the body.
Yes.
You know, I can tell, oh, he's a locker, but he's also a popper. You know, you can see history in people's body.
Yes.
And I believe that is a good thing, because I went up to Link. We all know Henry Link. Those judges' demos, nobody's ever been better. And I go, Link, I wish I could improvise like you. I wish I could dance like you. And he looked at me and he said, dance your history. And it was like, oh, he just gave me a lot of permission. I just got a lot of permission, because once you lose those knee turns and my hop things, I got to look for something.
Yes.
I got to pull something out of the bag. So, yeah, you know, it's okay. Well, give me another question, and I'll talk for another half an hour.
Because I don't know if a lot of my generation probably will not know. What's the Temi show?
Oh.
Yes, because we're talking about...
Okay, all right.
No, we know the legendary James Brown show in the Tami show.
Well,
but-
you have seen that. You guys have seen that clip of James.
Yes, hundred of times.
That's the Tammy show. You also saw last night, the clip of Marvin Gaye with the that's the Tammy show. It was all on the same show.
Okay.
It was all the same show. We had act after act after act after act, and it was, because I talk about the lights and being able to film things. That was the first filming of what was going to eventually become a pop concert.
Yes, okay, got it.
You know, sometimes there's shows out in the park where there's multiple performers on. That's what that was. Multiple performers. One after the other, and we had the backup dancers. I think we had 16 or 20 on stairs, and we had the go-go dancers, and sometimes they would join the singer, like with Marvin Gaye, and they didn't join James Brown because he didn't need any help.
Maybe elaborate a bit on go-go dancing. Could you
Well, go-go dancing is what we've been talking about. The twist, the pony, the mashed potatoes. And it was like the girls in the go-go cages that would come down and do these dances. That an audience, like as I said, the housewives, the policemen on the street, I can do that, you know? And it was a huge explosion of music and of dance, and it brought all cultures and all ages together.
Yes.
That's so.
And we did movies.
Yeah.
With Elvis.
Yeah, yeah,
With
we're getting there.
Elvis.
I just want to, because you've really been born into this, and you've seen big stars in the '60s. You've worked with them, but then came a pivoting point. Like you've also told me, then there came a moment when you met this person, or you were
Lamont.
Lamont,
Okay.
who told you about someone.
Yep, yep.
And you said to me, this was a moment where you were like,
Yeah.
what is happening here?
Okay, so towards the end of the 60s, I was in multiple movies, and I also started to co-star in a couple of very important films, groundbreaking films that were nominated for Golden Globes, Academy Awards. If you're familiar with the movie star Jack Nicholson,
Yes.
Jack was in both. This is Jack's breakout, was in Easy Rider and 5 Easy Pieces, and I co-starred with them in these films. So I was in LA, but then I went to Cannes Film Festival. You know, my life started to change towards that. I also had recorded a song called Breakaway in '66 that I just acquired now, ownership of the master, just 2 years ago. And so I put it up on live streaming. You know, it's up there now. So that folds into a lot of things about copyright, about songs, about availability, about a lot of stuff. So I went to the Cannes Film Festival. I came back, and there was no dance contest up at the top above, you know, at the interlude. There was nothing on the Sunset Strip. And so I called my girlfriend, who was still on one of the last of those TV shows. And I said, find me the best dancer. I need some classes, because what is happening? I need to because I always knew there's always something happening in the streets. There's always something happening. And it happens in the streets way before anybody sees it, way before it's on television, way before Crumping gets a movie. You know, everything happens before people discover it.
Yes.
And so she found me this guy, Lamont Peterson. Well, there was no such thing as a street dance class. And he didn't even know what she was talking about. She said, my girlfriend wants a class. So she gave him my number. I don't know, maybe a month later, he called me and he said, you want a class? I said, yeah, I want you to teach me what's happening. He said, well, what's happening is the bump and the runaway and posing. And I said, find me someplace we can get together. He found me a dressing room in a theater. So we did this class in a dressing room in a theater. So I had one class, it was illuminating. He showed me the bump, which I hadn't done before. And this step called the runaway, which was the beginning of posing, which was the beginning of whacking. Lamont is absolutely part of this thing that happened. So the second class I took, dancing, and I said, I think we should go to some clubs, and I want to see what's happening. And he said, well, you know, there's this guy, Don Campbell. Now, this is 1970. This is a year before Soul Train.
Yes.
And he said he's doing this dance that he's making up called the Campbell Walk. It was like kind of the buzz in the streets. And he said, I think you'd be interested in it. He was very generous. He said, I think you'd be interested in this. I said, okay. And he said, I said, well, how do we find him? He said, well, I'm gay and he's straight and we don't go to the same clubs, but I can try to take you. So he took me to clubs way down in LA, South LA, that I was dancing uptown.
Yeah.
I wasn't dancing downtown. And there was a fight on the dance floor. And I said, what are they fighting about? And he said, dance space. I said, this
That
is
you
where I
found
want to
it.
be.
This is where you belong.
This is where I want to be. Well, we really didn't find Don until one day uptown at what was a club that was called Osco's,
Yeah, awesome.
where we're dancing, and out of the side door, not the front door, side door, boom, the door flew open. I saw Don, two other guys that Don and I have never figured out who they were, because I thought, after a while, I thought, oh, that was Penguin. He said, no, too early to be Penguin. He just didn't know. He just couldn't figure it out, because I'm sure he was probably busting through side doors of multiple clubs that week, But he was wearing striped socks and knickers and a hat. He was dressed for vaudeville. He was dressed like I saw my mother's act.
Wow.
And I went, I saw my family in him. I saw it. I saw it. And he as quickly disappeared out the door. And I never saw him again in a club until Lamont called me on the phone. He said, we're doing Soul Train, the first week of Soul Train. So that had to have been a half a year later. And we all go, they shoot it at I think KTTV on Sunset Boulevard. He said there's a club called the Citadel that we all go to afterwards. That was on Sunset Boulevard. Why don't you come down? Everybody's here. Everybody was there. But why I say it's about Lamont. It's about Lamont for me that, took me to Don and illuminated me about what was happening, and then called me and said, we're on Soul Train. We're going to a club. Come meet us there,
Yes.
So that was it. It's, it's serendipity. It's sometimes in my career, I've fallen through the cracks. Boom. Been at the wrong time, missed parts, like, more acting parts. But sometimes it just happens. That if you keep reaching out, keep looking, because you just wanna, eventually it falls into place. It could take, from the day I called my girlfriend about Lamont, it had to have been a year and a half before the Citadel. But you drop that seed, that seed, and all of a sudden the tree grows. And you find yourself in the next episode, as Slim the Robot would say, which we will call, if we can get him on the phone, if he picks it up, he's so popular. But and so that night was a spectacular night for me.
So it was the first night you saw Don dancing the camera lock, the lock.
Say that again.
Yeah, this was the first night you saw dance.
No, the first night I saw him was when he busted through the door. Oh,
Okay.
no, I saw everything then.
Okay.
I saw the outfit.
Yeah.
I saw all of this.
Okay.
I saw everything.
Everything.
Then.
But for you, probably, when you saw that for the first time, this was
Oh,
like...
and
was
you know
like-
what? You know what Lamont said? He said he went to say to me, that's Don Campbell, and he didn't need to.
Yeah. you
I
knew.
knew that's what he was
you
talking
knew.
about. I knew, because I hadn't seen anything dance-wise as exciting since James Brown on the Tammy Show.
Wow.
That was street, which was going to be called street dance. That was the raising of the level to an art form out of social dancing, like James did. James was just doing the mashed potatoes, for God's sakes, but he took it to a place, and so did the Flames behind him. Took it to a place of art, and that's what Don did. He took the social dancing of that time period. 69, he started to mess around, create, you know, in the lunchroom of his school, and started to go to there started to be a buzz about him. Don never, ever, well, in the clubs we used to do the bump and a little funky stuff. But once the club cleared out, he never didn't dance huge performing. I mean, it was never held back. It was a theatrical performance, which attracted Greg Campbell-Lock Jr., who also had that in him. Shabadoo. There were people who wanted to dance to that level. And Don's dance gave us that because he added, I mean, he didn't do a lot of footwork. In the early days, if you go to early Soul Train line before the Lockers, it was simple footwork, but he was slapping, he was pointing, he was theatrical, and he was performing. We used to, when we were judging at Hip Hop International, I say, boy, these two guys, they're good, but they're the same. And he said, who's the best performer?
Yeah.
That was a Don, that was one of the things for locking.
Yeah.
You know, that isn't necessarily in house. That isn't you know, that
Yes.
it is in whacking.
So
It's definitely in whacking.
What would you say locking changed and prior to the dances that came that were before
Well,
locking?
what it did, it raised the level because it wasn't a social dance. You did not lock at your partner in the
Right.
club.
So it was also about communication.
But it was all about cultural. Giving five was cultural, was happening on the streets.
Yeah.
Giving
Yes.
five, pointing to the
Pointing.
camera.
Yeah.
There
Right.
was something about, you never didn't see Greg or Don eating the camera. On Soul Train, if the camera was there, they'd turn around and point it.
Yeah.
They were communicating, and that is the reason that we, as the Lockers, never had to dance behind a singer. We
Wow.
never were backup dancers to us. We were the act.
Yes.
Because
right.
we could do all sorts of vignettes. We could do everything. We didn't need a singer.
Yeah.
And that is like in vaudeville, when there was a tap dancer, there was no singer. You know, it was a dancer who was, or a group of dancers that were the performers. And previous to that, on television, dancers danced behind a singer.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Could you maybe, because we know that you've had a...
Should we call Slim, or just tell me when we should?
Yeah, we should call him a bit later.
Okay.
Because we
Okay,
only
just-
have like 15 minutes left for this.
Okay.
Could you elaborate a bit on your relationship with Don? Because you've had a very close relationship with Don. Could you tell us about how was Don and how did you get so close to him?
Well, you know, I just put out a video, which everyone can see, of Don's, the dedication of Don's square, the Campbell-Lock Square, where he honored me to bring me up on the stage with him. And he talked about me, and I talked about him. And we had 3 years of, even though he was dancing on Soul Train, he had a song called the Campbell-Lock. We tried to make that happen. We got it on American Bandstand as rate a record. It rated very medium. You needed to see Don dance the song and sing the song. You needed Don for the song.
Yeah.
We banged on doors. We just banged on doors, and I was able to get that song on American Bandstand because I brought a little piece of footage of him that I had taken from a contest he did at Grand Hotel. Because they were doing contests, I was doing contests.
Okay, contests.
Huh?
Contests.
Dance contest. Dance
Yeah.
contest. Not against
No,
each
no,
other.
no,
Just get out, play rock steady. We dance. I dance. Then Don would say, play something James Brown. And then we would get in a line, and they would hold their hands over our heads,
Yeah.
and whoever got the most applause got
Yeah.
the $50. So those are those dance contests. But we really, my boyfriend and I took him to parties, major parties, big parties, and he would dance because we were trying to get him take it one more step forward. And people would say, oh my God, but what do we do with it? What do we do with it? You know, where does it go?
Yeah.
Where does it go? Well, that piece of footage and that song that I took to Dick Clark Productions, who I'd worked with throughout the 60s, because I had worked with people throughout the 60s, they remembered the visual footage. And they called me and they said, we're doing the Roberta Flack special, and she's crossing over to a wide television audience. And we have choreography for you to do, but remember that guy. They wanted the Alvin Ailey dancers. The Alvin Ailey dancers had a problem with contracts and unions. To go from live contracts to television contracts is a whole thing that goes on upstairs in the desks and out there. And they said, we can't get their contracts together. Are your guys in the union? And I said, no. Are we back filming?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Dick Clark Company called me and said, we were going to use the Alvin Ailey dancers for the Roberta Flack special. We were having union problems. Remember that guy? Remember that guy? Yeah, he said, are there more of him?
There is a lot in the clubs.
Are there more of him? And there was Greg. There was
Yeah.
Slim.
What a crew.
There was more of him. They said, we want girls. We don't want it to look like Soul Train. We want girls. We want different cultures. We want different shapes of people. But we need something different. We need something different. I went out and I looked for Denny Terrio, the white boy who could lock. He was at dance contests out also where Don was doing dance contests. Grand Hotel, found him. Denny became a big star in television. He hosted a show called Dance Fever.
Yeah, and he was the choreographer of
He was the
Travolta also.
choreographer of a dance of John Travolta's.
John Travolta, yeah.
And the routine John Travolta did in that movie was Denny Terrio's routine that he used to do in the dance competitions.
yeah.
And it says, legend says that the white suit he was wearing was because Slim always wore a white suit.
Uh-huh.
So that, and I just talked to Denny the other day. You know, we're all still connected.
So how important is style for you and the Lockers?
Style?
Style, yeah, the way you...
Well, that was, look, well, here we go.
Wow, okay.
So this is Greg's hat.
Right.
This is Greg's hat.
Wow.
He
That's
had
iconic.
several of these, so he gave me this one very early on because I used to make patterns from this to match my outfits. This is one of the patterns. This is a littler one. This actually is in, you see it in the Midnight Special.
Okay. But you have clips, like,
Okay, so
yeah, I see clips in it.
there's clips in it
Yeah.
because when I turned, it would fall off.
Okay.
I had to make a choice between turning and going boom, boom, boom.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have been doing that. Like Fluky, like Greg, but the turning was important because it was the leg and the turning was my specialty.
Yeah.
We all had our specialties. Fluky had the jump, Don had the dive, you know, Fred Berry had the butt trick. You know, we needed that because we were not a heavy unison group. We were a charismatic group. That we put bits and pieces together, we did solos, and our solos were what were spectacular.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we were like nothing anybody had ever seen before.
Yeah.
You guys, you've seen so many lockers, so many lockers. Nobody had ever seen anything like this. And I knew we were just doing vaudeville.
Yeah.
That's my concept and relationship to it. That's why it just was, for me, so easy to stage it and put it together, because I had the greatest dancers of that time dancing. So I wasn't worried about them. All I had to do was string together pieces of the puzzle and make it look like a different thing every week, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Toni, you carved out space in industries and stages where few women were truly recognized, especially in these times. What was it like to face that resistance, and how did you overcome it?
I think because I was working, see, once the lockers were out there, after pounding on doors, and they saw it, that was it. They couldn't resist it. And people like Tina Turner and David Bowie, where I had worked before in television and in movies, they called me. Tina called me the first, after she left Ike. And I choreographed her first act after she left Ike. Tina and I, we got it because she's street, yet she's theatrical, she's a singer, and we would have meetings and we would be going to the same place. Same thing with David Bowie. David Bowie, who was voracious about research and what was happening. I was very much, and he was into what they called this improvisational acting theater. He was also into mime. When I was flown to England to meet him. He sent me straight to the West End to see the Rocky Horror Show when it was still at the West End. You got to see that. We talked about things, and then all of a sudden, I was brought to New York. They said, you know, he wants you to choreograph his opening number. And I said to my agent, you know what, make the contract good, because I'm going to choreograph that whole show. And I knew, because we were on the same abstract plane, that other choreographers weren't necessary. So many times with these performers, I had no resistance. I had maybe resistance, maybe with an editor after I had choreographed a music video, because it's very separate. You know, there's producers, there's a music video, then you go into the editing room. And they go, oh no, this is on the beat. And I'm going, no, I choreographed Troop, Spread My Wings. I said, no, their solo is off the beat and you've started them 8 counts early. And they didn't believe me, because they thought, what does that matter? Off the beat, what does that mean? 8 counts early, what does that mean? Call the guys. They live in Orange County, 2 hours to get it. I said, you better get here, because they don't believe me. They came in, they looked at it, they said, it's off the beat, and it's 8 counts too soon. But, so that's the kind of resistance in that way, in the editing room, because they don't like choreographers in the editing room.
Yes.
You know, not unless you're Tina or David Bowie or Janet or Prince, you know, you can get in the editing room, but so you know, you have to pick your battles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And how about, I have a question actually, because the lockers was a predominant
Male?
I don't know how to.
Yeah, they were mainly men?
Yeah, it was a mainly men group and mainly black people groups. And how it's been welcomed in the industry at this time, I'm always wondering how.
I don't exactly know what you mean.
I want to mean because it was also a time of segregation, after the segregation, so there was like a white audience and black audience, and the Locals was to me the first street gang group who went
Really,
to both
we
audience.
opened up for
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra at Carnegie Hall
Yeah.
in the same half a year that we opened up for the Funkadelics at Radio City. We really had a wide range audience. Really, we just spoke to so many people because there was nothing like us before. Just nothing.
Yeah,
You know,
I
and
think
we were on regular television. We were on television, you know.
Yeah.
And did
yeah.
you have to deal with like negativity around this? Did you have to deal with
From us or
No, from outside?
I gotta
like,
tell you,
the
I
resistance.
think people like, I think they were so startled by us.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got to realize it was like this weird dancing army that was coming in that they went, well, we better let them do what.
Yes.
You know, Toni, what should we, well, Don's gonna dive through that and this and then that and then there, and then when they lock, they point. The camera goes to whoever they point to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and they
Yeah.
just go, okay. And we really didn't have any resistance. As a matter of fact, there were many shows that wanted us to give them information of what we would like to do with, there were these stars like John Denver and Doris Day. Doris Day was a very big movie star. John Denver had big hits. But they were MOR, middle of the road. What can you guys do with this song? You know? So
Yeah.
we were
Yeah.
able to collaborate.
Yeah.
So in that time, it was really a privilege to do something like that.
Yes, we like I think on one of the releases of the Midnight Special, Wolfman Jack said they were on earlier, but they're such creative dancers that they could improvise. That nobody had ever heard of dancers, just improvising. God, you know. And then he just started to rap, and we imposed. You know,
Yeah.
it was like this magical thing,
Yeah, yeah,
improvisation.
that's-
Oh
yes.
my God.
Yes.
Talking about improvisation, for you,
I'm still working on it.
but movement has never been just steps. Curious, and I think a lot of the audience also wants to know, like, what does dance mean to you at its deepest level?
It's my lover.
Your lover.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Beautiful.
know, it's never failed me. It's just never failed me throughout the decades. It just keeps giving. It just keeps on giving. It just keeps on giving. All of a sudden, there's Ghetto Funk on the computer. Or somebody calls me and says, you see Joshua? I said, yeah, he's part of that team of Chi and Roche. And, you know, it's like, it just keeps on giving. Hiroko Boogie just keeps on giving. You know, there's all sorts of fresh
All the
things
time.
that happen, whether it's vaudeville or go-go or James Brown, seeing James Brown or seeing Don Campbell. It just keeps giving. And I think it's a lot to do. I think the change of dance happens with the change of music, the change of shoes. You know, if you know, the B-boys, as shoes changed, they were able to do so much other stuff. When the lockers wore little, what we called marshmallows, which are hard shoes. So hence the little flatness of our feet. Well, when Hush Puppies came in, Boogaloo Sam put them on and went, whoa, I can go on the balls of my feet. So all of a sudden, Boogaloo Sam has new steps, has a new direction to go. So there's shoes, there's wardrobe, there's the floor. Oh my God, from wood floor to Marley? James Brown couldn't dance on Marley. It's not slippery enough.
Yes.
So, so music and all that kind of thing changes everything. Everything keeps changing. So
evolving.
there's always something new, there's always something new. And then all of a sudden, there were dance competitions. Out of nowhere. out of nowhere. Because previous, you were locking one for 5 years, and then popping came in and you weren't locking in the clubs. Then there was popping, and then there was hip hop. It kept changing, and dancers, the younger dancers, would cast aside the earlier dance that they learned for the new dance.
Yes.
But it was the competitions that kind of brought back the respect for all the different styles. And all of a sudden, Pete, who was working by then in a record store, was being asked to judge in Japan. That was asked to be a judge. And then, wow, I tell you, when I started, because I didn't have a computer. You needed a computer to see all this stuff. Don't forget, these contests didn't go on computer till much later. And once you see 2009 or 8, Funkenstyle, Yoshia, Salah, and Pilak battling, my jaw dropped. Because I saw locking in a different perspective. The three of them locked different. And I went, oh my God. Here is something else. Dance your style. Of course, they have all this other information. Our information was Go-Go and James Brown.
Yes.
Their information was decades since then. So you're dancing different,
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Toni, if you could leave one message.
Aren't we going to just call Slim for a second?
You want?
Oh, we have to. He's
Okay.
just for a second.
Okay, let's. Yeah, we're going to call Slim
Okay, just to say.
live from Los Angeles.
Hello.
Slim, I'm here
Yes.
doing a YouTube interview with Ghetto Funk Collective, and I just wanted you as one of us, the lockers, to say hello. So I've got the phone up to the mic. Say hello.
How you doing?
How you doing, Slim?
Good, Slim.
Ghetto Funk. Ghetto.
Wow, it's an honor to have you here as well.
I just wanted a backup, Slim. I need my posse.
Oh yeah, definitely.
See?
They're amazing. I be watching y'all. I've checked all your little YouTube. Y'all be getting down.
Oh,
That's
you know who's here? Do you remember Hiroko Boogie, the girl I showed you? The sexy, cute,
The little cute one.
Huh?
The little cute one.
She's tall and skinny and sexy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, she's here next to me, too. They're fans of yours.
Oh my goodness. They got the right idea.
Okay. All right, well, we just wanted to check in, say hello, and, I'm so glad you're here with me, and we don't live far from each other in LA. So,
That's right.
all right. Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
we all love you.
Everybody be good.
Okay.
Thank you, Slim.
Thank you, Slim.
Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Slim.
Bye, Slim.
Bye-bye.
It's like he sounds like 1973.
Yeah, exactly.
He sounds
Always
exactly
talks
like he's
Yeah.
always sounded. Greg always talked like this. Don always talked the same. Everybody talked the same.
Hiroko is gonna ask you a
Yeah.
question.
I want to ask about style again.
Style.
Yeah. So I really love Locker's costume. Really love the old outfit. So did you guys have some stylist or you style everything by yourself?
No, Don created he first rolled up his pants to be short, and he put the striped socks on, because in the early 70s, stripes were very popular. So it was easy to get cheap striped socks and striped top. His mother also crocheted a lot of his hats and his vests. But she wasn't about to crochet our whole 7 outfits. So, and Greg was the one who started to wear the pizza hats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Greg.
And Don started to turn his hat because his sweat, he wore the apricots, because sweat was happening. So he'd turn his hat, and of course he would always turn things, everything he did was to the beat of the music. Hence another thing was born, and the outfits, and it just worked. It was vaudevillian.
Yes.
It just had, the Citadel had a lot of different people, but the Summit was all lockers. So the whole place was full of lockers in outfits. I mean, you didn't go in there if you didn't have an outfit. And you couldn't dance.
So the outfit was really based on the fashion from this time, right?
It was based on availability. Don was a performer.
Yeah.
He found a way to put a costume, to present himself at these dance contests, and it was just working. And then Greg, who followed him, started dressing like him. So then people started dressing like him. And Greg did create things for himself that people also followed.
Yeah, exactly.
Toni, thank you so much for this, for all this wisdom.
All the wisdom. I got to tell you, I also got a lot of wisdom from Tina and Bowie, because don't forget, I was working with Tina and Bowie in the 70s, the same time I was with the Lockers.
Yeah.
So a lot of information.
You accumulated from other artists.
All of that information
I think it's very inspiring to hear your
comes
story.
together.
Yeah.
Plant the seed and voraciously do research.
If you could leave one message,
Okay.
one truth from your journey for the world to hear 1,000 years or 100 years from now, what would it be?
Practice, practice, practice. Practice, practice, practice. And if you don't love practicing, forget it. I love practicing. I love discovering. I love being, trying to figure out, seeing something new, trying to reinvent that. Practice, practice, practice. And every dancer, if they're obsessive dancers like I know you guys are, you can't stop dancing. You just can't. It's almost not work.
Yeah.
To a lot of people, practice is like, I don't want to practice. I don't want to rehearse. You got to love it. Because if you don't love it, it just won't work for you.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for
so
the
much.
Thank you so
interview,
much.
Toni. That was really beautiful.
Wow.
That was an honor. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Really, this is sitting like a little child.
Yeah.
Sprinkle in my eyes.
Yeah.
Really, thank you so
I
much.
was lucky. I was so lucky.
Yeah.
I think I've had the most eclectic career of people, because I've touched on so many different genres and recording and performing and choreographing and acting and being around the great people of those genres that I can learn from. That, I just feel as though if what I deliver better be good, because I've had so much information from so many great people, and they all have they all approach their art different, but they all have the same thing, a work ethic. It's a work ethic, not a party ethic. It's a work ethic. And as I said, you've just got to love that.
Yeah.
That's got to
Nice.
be
Your drive.
sex for you, It's got to be fun for you. It's gotta, Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Now
that
we're
was-
going to do a Q&A.
Yeah. So you asked